brothers, next month UFC is preparing to host what could become one of the biggest events in the company's history. UFC Fight at the White House, scheduled for June 14, and one of the headline matchups expected on that card is Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. Ahead of the fight, Ilia Topuria has shared a major update regarding his training camp because this event will not take place inside a traditional arena. Instead, the fight is expected to happen in an open outdoor setting, which has forced Topuria to completely change parts of his training routine so he can properly adjust to those conditions. In this video, we are also going to break down what could become the biggest threat for Ilia Topuria heading into this matchup. Even though most fans still believe that Topuria has the higher chance of winning, there are still a few important factors that could create serious problems for him once the fight begins. Along with that, we will also discuss the latest rumors surrounding Conor McGregor because reports are now strongly suggesting that a fight between Conor McGregor and Max Holloway could finally be announced in the near future. But before moving forward, make sure to like the video and subscribe to UFC Zone X for more UFC and combat sports content. Now, speaking about UFC Freedom 250, this White House event could easily become one of the biggest UFC events, not just of this year, but possibly in the entire history of the promotion. Normally, UFC events are held inside large arenas or stadiums, but this time, the fights are expected to take place directly on the backyard lawn of the White House in the United States. Dana White is reportedly extremely excited about the event. President Donald Trump is expected to attend as well, and several massive fights are being planned for the card. It is very clear that UFC wants this event to feel completely different from anything fans have seen before. An outdoor fight changes the entire atmosphere, and Ilia Topuria himself admitted that this will be the first time in his career that he competes inside an open outdoor arena. Throughout most of his career, he has fought inside closed arenas and domes, but this time the environment will be completely different. Because of that, Topuria revealed that most of his recent training sessions are also taking place outdoors so that both his body and mind can fully adapt before fight night arrives. Honestly, there is a massive difference between fighting inside a closed arena and competing in an open environment. The feeling changes not only for the fighters, but even for the viewers watching the event. Many fans compare it to older WWE WrestleMania events, where some shows happened inside closed stadiums, while others took place in huge open stadiums, and the atmosphere always felt completely different. UFC is obviously a very different sport, but even here the presentation and feeling of an outdoor event changes everything. That is exactly why Ilia Topuria wants to avoid any unexpected discomfort on fight night, so he has already started preparing under similar outdoor conditions. Still, while the open arena might slightly affect the fight by maybe 5 or 10%, the real issue that could impact Ilia Topuria is inactivity. He is returning after almost an entire year away from competition, and one thing that has always remained true in combat sports is that inactivity can become a fighter's biggest enemy. An active fighter continues gaining experience, keeps improving, and constantly adapts with the evolution of the sport. But when a fighter stays inactive for a long period of time, even after delivering incredible performances in the past, problems can begin to appear because MMA evolves extremely fast. Fighters improve every single day. New trends continue entering the sport, and the game never stops changing. That is why ring rust becomes such a dangerous issue for fighters returning after a long break. No matter how much sparring or tactical training a fighter does, the true feeling of an actual fight only comes during a real fight. One of the biggest effects of ring rust is the sudden adrenaline dump, where a fighter's energy level quickly drops during the match. Recently, many fans even noticed signs of that with Khamzat Chimaev, and similar issues could happen to Ilia Topuria as well. Of course, Topuria is still entering this fight as the favorite because of his dangerous punching power and because Justin Gaethje's fighting style may not match up very well against him. But at the same time, it is also important to remember that Topuria last fought in June of last year, meaning more than a year has already passed since his previous fight. On top of that, there were also reports of personal problems in his life during that period, so naturally people will question how focused his training really was throughout all of that time. This does not suddenly destroy his chances of winning, but these are still important factors that should not be ignored. Many fighters in the past have seen their careers decline because of inactivity, and this could eventually become a problem for Topuria too. Now the conversation moves toward Conor McGregor because once again, strong rumors about his comeback are beginning to spread across the MMA world. Over the past few years, fans have constantly heard updates regarding Conor's return, but this time the reports seem much more believable. According to recent rumors, UFC is targeting a fight between Conor McGregor and Max Holloway in the welterweight division, likely as a 3-round fight sometime around July or August of 2026. Normally, rumors involving Conor appear almost every month, but this situation feels different because there are finally signs from multiple sides supporting the possibility of the fight. Recently, footage of Conor training started circulating again, and when Max Holloway was asked about the matchup, he did not deny it either. Instead, Holloway hinted that there is unfinished history between the two fighters and that maybe now is finally the right time to settle it. Their first fight happened almost 12 or 13 years ago, which makes this rivalry even more interesting for longtime fans. Another important detail came directly from Dana White during a recent press conference where he stated that things are currently in a good place with Conor McGregor, that Conor is actively training again, and that a new deal could eventually be finalized soon. However, the biggest obstacle surrounding Conor's return may still be his contract situation. During the old UFC pay-per-view era, Conor McGregor was one of the biggest stars in combat sports history because even without fighting regularly, he could still generate over 1 million pay-per-view buys on his own. Even many of today's biggest UFC champions struggle to reach numbers like that. But the business model inside UFC has changed significantly over time. With fixed payments and different the matchup could have easily been rebooked only a few months later, but UFC decided to wait, and eventually more contract complications started appearing. Because of that, a huge portion of Conor McGregor's prime years inside the sport has already been wasted. Now, at 38 years old, if he finally returns against someone like Max Holloway, the fight would still be extremely entertaining because both men are primarily strikers, and Conor likely does not want to face a heavy wrestling-based opponent at this stage of his career. Still, the same concern remains because 4 years of inactivity can slowly damage even the greatest fighters from the inside. The biggest question now is whether Conor McGregor can truly return at a high level again, and whether he can still train hard enough to compete with elite fighters once he steps back into the cage.